I'm Stacy Redmond, and I served in the Army as a tactical satellite microwave systems team chief. We are so happy to bring to you this very special edition of Veterans in Transition.
We were able to literally trace all the way back to the beginning of our republic, our entire military connection.
Our father actually prompted us and pushed me specifically to join the military. I never wanted to do it. I wanted to play in the NFL.
He was so patriotic, he wanted to serve his country, so he left high school. He went into the Navy and Marines. He served as a crew chief.
And now, my friend and colleague, retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Michael Black.
Greetings. I am Colonel Michael Black, United States Air Force retired. I'm honored to be the Air Force representative for this inaugural celebration, honoring fathers whose child or children followed in their footsteps to serve in the armed forces, just like Daddy. In this program, you will hear stories from fathers, sons, and daughters as they share their stories of integrity, service before self, selfless service, excellence, loyalty, duty, respect, honor, courage, commitment, and love of our country, and love of their fathers. We'll hear from those who are true patriots, a family with military legacy that traces its military legacy to the beginning of our republic, a family with roots in West Point and the Naval Academy. So let's begin with my story of being just like Daddy. I followed in the footsteps of my father, where we combined to serve in the military for nearly 60 years, him serving in the Army and me in the Air Force, both serving in the communications and cyber career fields, and both retiring as colonels.
Greetings, I'm Colonel Michael Black, United States Air Force retired, and I'm just like my daddy. My father, Clinton James Black, Colonel, United States Army retired, graduated from Tuskegee in 1964, Tuskegee Institute as it was called back then, and received a direct commission into the Army. Now, some of the things I remember about being a military brat or my dad being in the Army that are very memorable to me is, number one, I was able to live overseas. We lived in Ethiopia in 1968 to 1970 for 2.5 years. The first school that I went to was an Italian school. I learned to speak Italian, and I was fluent in Italian for a 5, 6, and 7-year-old. I also got the opportunity to see Haile Selassie, who was the emperor of Ethiopia during that time. An amazing experience. Secondly, my dad was able to participate in several of my promotion ceremonies. My dad promoted me to captain and to lieutenant colonel, and was involved in several other promotions along the way. And then finally, my father was able to pin the jump wings on to Clinton Black, my son, who is named after him. Clinton earned his jump wings in 2017 from the Academy in free fall, and my dad earned his jump wings from Airborne School in 1965 at Fort Benning. The same wings that my son wears on his Class A's are the wings that my dad earned in 1965. So you can see, we are a family of just like my daddy. I'm just like my daddy in that I joined the military and served for 26 years. My son, Clinton Michael Black, is just like me, and he joined the military and is in the Air Force right now. And he's also just like his granddaddy in joining the military. Now the interesting thing is sometimes my dad will pull rank on me and remind me that he's the first Colonel Black, right, Dad?
Now let us take a closer look at 3 of our Just Like Daddy stories, including a quick chat with Amanda Williams, Deanna Wan, and Henry Turner. Amanda's story traces her family's military legacy to every conflict since the beginning of our republic, and highlights how both her and her father achieved the rank of colonel in the United States Air Force. Let's watch Amanda's video.
My name is Amanda Williams. I served in the United States Air Force for over 25 years, and I'm a retired Air Force colonel. my father, Colonel Henry Williams, is also a retired Air Force colonel. Yes, we do have battles around who's the better colonel, but I digress. I am excited to just talk just a moment about my father and who he was and the value set that he brought to our family. For my brother, my sister, and I, it was about being people of your word, to work hard, to understand that family came first, but to be grounded in strength. And for my father, that strength came from being able to overcome his circumstances. And we saw that, and all the things that he taught us in our home are the exact same types of core values that the military had. What's very special about us, about our family, is the fact that we've had somebody serve in every conflict that we've had as a republic. And so to be able to carry on that legacy and that tradition was pretty important to me. And my father, being my hero, made that easy. So what I think is very special about my father is the love that he has for his family. I have never seen anyone, and I'm sure we all think our fathers are the best, but I absolutely think mine is. But the love that he has for my mother, the love he had for my sister, brother, and I, and the love he has for his grandchildren. I have not seen anything like that, and it was a safe place to know that no matter what we did, that he was going to love us. But through that love, he was able to help us grow so that each of us could be successful and we could all find ourselves to be the best person that we could be. If I could share probably 2 moments, I think, kind of through my lifetime, I think the first moment was when he commissioned me coming out of the Air Force Academy. That was pretty special, and of course a couple of my classmates asked him to do the same. But I think for me the most powerful moment was when I came to him and I said, "Hey Dad, I'm getting a divorce." And without hesitation, he said, "Amanda, you will not have to do this on your own." And to his word, that is a true statement. I would not be where I am today, would not have made Colonel in the United States Air Force had it not been for he and my mom. And I just want to say thanks, Dad. I know I've said it many times before, but I get to publicly say thank you, Dad, for everything that you've done for me, our family, and just couldn't be more proud to be your daughter.
Amanda, it's great to see you again. I think the last time we saw each other was here in the DMV when you officiated a retirement ceremony.
That's
You
right.
are truly,
Patty pie.
that's right. You are truly like your daddy in that both of you retired as colonels from the Air Force. What did both of you do in the service?
So my father was an intel officer starting out and went to Vietnam in that capacity. And then to use our current language, he cross-trained into missileers. But I think for me, the coolest job he ever had was when he was the first Black officer to become the commander of basic military training at Lackland Air Force Base here in San Antonio. As for me, communications officer, cyber, and probably for me, the times that I was in command, being able to serve among the best and brightest of our airmen, sailors, Marines, and soldiers.
Tell me more about tracing your family's military service back to every conflict since the beginning of our republic.
I have to give complete credit to my first cousin, Olivia Jones. And I want to say maybe it was through Ancestry.com or Me23, I don't know, but through those connections and meeting different people that were connected to us, we were able to literally trace all the way back to the beginning of our republic, our entire military connection. And then now, having found those pieces and parts of our family, we now realize that we have been able to serve in every branch of our military through cousins, distant cousins, uncles, aunts. And so that piece has been pretty cool. But I think now for me, my nephew Henry, my brother's son, has just committed to the United States Naval Academy. He is a water polo recruit. And so we're hoping that we'll see him there getting ready to start in a year's time.
Well, that's amazing, Amanda. I mean, and we absolutely love your Just Like Daddy story. I mean, it's amazing to hear what Colonel Henry Williams did and what Colonel Amanda Williams did, and just being just like Daddy. I can relate to that. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. And as always, it's good to see my little sister.
Mike, it's good to see my brother from another mother.
What a great story on Colonels Henry Williams and Colonel Amanda Williams. Now let's take a look at Colonel Deanna Wan's Just Like Daddy story. Deanna's father actually served in the Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force. A true patriot. Let's watch Deanna's video.
I'm Deanna 1, and I served as a physicist in the U.S. Air Force, retiring as a colonel. I remember traveling on my first Pan American Airlines flight as a little girl and hearing that the pilot making the announcement over the aircraft's PA system was Ronald 1, my father. A true patriot, he served in all four services to include the U.S. Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force, and is a veteran of World War II, the Korea and Vietnam Wars. Despite growing up during the Great Depression era, my father had dreams of becoming a fighter pilot. However, the Navy Marines informed him that he could only serve as a mess attendant or cook. Rather than accepting this, his love for being around aircraft led him to serve as one of the 11 all-Chinese American crew of aircraft mechanics on the historic Pan Am China Clipper. He achieved his dream eventually of becoming a U.S. Air Force fighter pilot, where he flew F-84s and F-86s during the Korean War and pioneered air-to-air refueling. He retired from the U.S. Air Force as a colonel and was the first Asian American 747 pilot for Pan Am. My father is now 95 years old, and he is to receive the Congressional Gold Medal of Honor. He taught me about love and service to God first, then country and family. I'm so grateful for how he's inspired me and many others to pursue your dreams without limits.
Deanna, tell us a little bit more about your father's service, for it's extremely rare to know someone who served in 4 different branches of service.
Sure. It was during World War II that it was, before my father even finished high school, he was so patriotic. He wanted to serve his country. So he left high school and he went into the Navy and Marines. He served as a crew chief on the Corsair F4U. And he also, he knew early on he wanted to be a fighter pilot. But back then he was told he could, maybe become a mess attendant or a chef or a cook. And so he went back and forth between the Navy, Marines, got that same story, but eventually he did get over to Hamilton Air Force Base and told him his dreams, and they had him take a test. And from there on, he, that the Army stint comes in the fact that, back then they didn't even have flight training yet for a separate Air Force, so it was still conducted under the Army. And so he went through pilot training, but, prior to all that, he even, when he was only 17 years old, he was working as an aircraft mechanic on the Pan Am China Clipper, because he just wanted to be around airplanes and aircraft.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that interesting fact about your father's service in 4 different branches. You also mentioned that your father received or is about to receive the Congressional Gold Medal of Honor. Can you tell us a little bit more about that recognition?
Yes, it's really monumental. Congress has, made the decision to recognize all these Chinese Americans that are World War II veterans, and it was awarded to 20,000 Chinese Americans, but there's only, a few hundred that are alive. And so my father was scheduled to receive it this past April, but with everything that's going on, it's indefinite right now, but hopefully soon.
Nice. Now, your father obviously has a story of perseverance, but I understand you have your own perseverance story in that you are a cancer survivor. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
Sure, yes. So I was at my last assignment in the Air Force and thought everything was great. And I got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. My condition deteriorated to the point where both lungs collapsed, filled with fluid, and I ended up in hospice, and I was given 4 weeks left to live. It's really by God's grace that I survived, because I never did chemotherapy or radiation. I just had surgery. And so I'm just grateful now. It's given me an opportunity to serve others by being a health coach now.
Now, I know you both were colonels in the Air Force, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you did in the Air Force, Deanna. Can you expand on that?
Sure, yes. I came in, I specialized in lasers and electro-optics, and then I also got to work in launching satellites, in ballistic missile defense, NATO operations, and then also chemical, biological, and nuclear warfare.
Wow. Amazing story and amazing service by two colonels in the Air Force. Thank you again for sharing that story about your father and about you. You are truly just like Daddy.
Thanks, Mike. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve.
Wow, what a legacy. Thank you for sharing your Just Like Daddy story, Deanna. In our next Just Like Daddy story, we'll see from our video submissions that the Turner family had the most children to serve in the military, with children who graduated from West Point and the Naval Academy and went on to serve just like Daddy. Let's watch Henry's video.
Hi, I'm Henry C. Turner Jr., and I retired from the United States Army as a lieutenant colonel almost 20 years ago. Father's Day is special to me not only because I am a father, but because our father taught 3 sons how to be a true father. Our father, Henry C. Turner, grew up in Mobile, Alabama during segregation. He was able to leave the South through education and through the United States Army. He was drafted into the all-segregated Army, and even though he was a college graduate, he was made an enlisted soldier, just like his father, Private James E. Turner. Our father never let discrimination stop him as he completed his initial enlisted service and then joined the United States Army Reserves. During this time, he went back to college and earned his doctorate in optometry, and then joined the Integrated United States Army as a commissioned officer in the Medical Service Corps. After completing 30 years in the United States Army, he retired as a colonel and the chief of the optometry clinic at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. The first Black to ever hold this position. Yes, I am extremely proud of our father. I say this to tell you that even though he was extremely driven to excel in whatever he did, he was always there for us. One has to ask themselves, how does one get all 4 of their children to follow in your footsteps into the United States military if you did not leave an indelible impression on their lives while growing up? Not only did he leave that indelible impression, but he also got all of his children to go to the college he wanted us to attend. The 3 sons all went to the United States Military Academy at West Point, and the daughter went to the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis. Yes, our father was passionate and driven to excel, and he instilled that into us. All the children retired from the United States military with either an MBA, PhD, or JD on top of their military rank. All of that is nice, but what I remember most for and want to thank him today and always for is for always being there at my football, track, and baseball games, pushing me to excel in grade school, allowing me to spread my wings and go to a diverse public high school in Largo during integration when all I had known before were Catholic, predominantly white schools in the Midwest, and for traveling to West Point to visit me in the hospital when I tore my knee up playing ball. Dad, I know you are looking down from above on us, watching our families grow, with 3 of your grandchildren serving in the United States Army now. I could not have done it without you stepping in at times when I was not there as the best father I could have been to our children. However, you stepped in as a grandfather must, and you had your sons back. Thank you, Dad.
Tell us what it was like for you and your brothers and sister to all graduate from service academies.
It was really an honor for all of us. The 3 of us in the military, in the Army, my sister in the military, in the Navy. We had a wonderful example of what to do by our parents. Mother was a teacher and our father was in the Army. So we always had someone who showed us how to do something properly and how to do it right. And so when our father actually prompted us and pushed me specifically to join the military, I never wanted to do it. I wanted to play in the NFL. But when I really thought about it and thought about the decisions my father had made during his life, I said, he's probably the right person to tell me what to do and how to move down my journey in life. And that's why I chose the Army.
Very nice. I also understand that it doesn't end with your generation. You actually have a son in the military, and I believe a niece and a nephew that graduated from West Point today.
Absolutely, Colonel. I'm so proud of that fact that, yes, I have a niece and a nephew, Leah and Michael, that both graduated from West Point. My twin brothers, who graduated from West Point 7 years behind me, those are their children. And we're so proud of them and continue on the Turner legacy in the military. Now, my sister, who graduated from the Naval Academy, she's a little envious of the fact that nobody went into the Navy, but she's so proud of the fact that her niece went in and is serving as well.
That's awesome. I love the Turner legacy modifier that you use. Can you expand on your father being the first African-American chief of optometry at Walter Reed? And I understand he came in, enlisted first, but if you can expand on his rise from entry into the military to becoming the first African-American chief of optometry at Walter Reed.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so proud of my father, because we all have to remember that back then it was a segregated army. He was drafted in World War II for the war as an enlisted soldier, even though he had already graduated from college. So he came as an enlisted soldier and then served his time therein for about 4 years, got out and joined the reserves. And he stayed in the reserves until he got married. And my mother suggested to him to go back into the Army. And he went ahead, he filled out his paperwork, and this time they brought him in because now you had an integrated Army. And he was able to come in much easier, and he came back in and went to Fort Sam Houston in Texas and went to the Medical Service Corps, and he became an optometrist. And for him to do that during segregation back in the 1957 timeframe is really remarkable, because not only did he enter in back as a private, got out, went in the reserves, came back in now as a lieutenant, but he rose from a lieutenant all the way to colonel, full bird. And I'm so happy and proud of that, because he brought us here to Washington, D.C., and he became the first Black to ever be the chief of the optometry clinic at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. And he was also the first Black to ever head up the National Association for the Optometry. So he did well to have risen from Mobile, Alabama, in segregation. You look at what's going on now in our world and just realize that it was worse back then to do what he's done now. He was the example that led us, all 4 of the children, to where we are now. And he was the example, and I'm going to tell you, he's the example for my son, so that my son also joined the military and has made it to major as an engineer there in Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Nice. Engineers lead the way. So you're retired now and served 20 plus years. What are you doing with yourself?
Well, after I retired from the military, I really had to think about what I really wanted to do. And I think it goes back to what my father said when we were in the military and we were living here in Bowie, Maryland. He always said, Henry, somebody's gonna make a lot of money off of this land that's out here in Bowie and down in southern Prince George's County. And I took that to heart. And I got into the land development business, and was able to do fairly well in accumulating a vast amount of property, but in building a couple small communities here in the southern portion of Prince George's County. And so I did that, and then I thought I was going to get into the political game, and I got into the political game and ran for county executive, ran for some other things, What I'm so proud about is that even though I didn't make county executive, our sister graduated from the Naval Academy, spent 20 years in, and became a lawyer, is now sitting as Prince George's County Circuit Court judge. So I'm really proud of that.
That's awesome. And an awesome story about your father and his amazing legacy. It's amazing to see so many family members that followed in the footsteps of James Turner. Thank you, Henry, for sharing your Just Like Daddy story. Amazing.
Well, thank you, Colonel. I appreciate it. And to be honest with you, it didn't begin with our father. It began with our grandfather who came in World War I as a private in the segregated army. So he was the beginning of all this. Thank you, sir.
All right. Awesome. Thank you to all of our sons and daughters who took the time to tell their awesome Just Like Daddy stories. Thank you to the fathers and grandfathers who set the examples and led the lives that led the children to choose to be just like Daddy.